Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoteric and a continuing series on the MiSTer FPGA DE10 Nano project. When I did the original MSU1 video with the support coming to MiSTer, everyone asked why I didn't cover 3 specific games, and the reason for that was because I was going to do a follow-up video talking about some of my favorite experiences on the MSU1 and how incredible they are on MiSTer. Before we get too involved though, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like, subscribe, and that notification bell definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, we got a Patreon link down below as well. But people kept asking me, why did you not show certain games? And honestly, that's because I was holding them back. Because the MSU1 enhancement, quote-unquote, chip, of course it's just an FPGA code here, is absolutely outstanding. And it does some wild things like Super Road Blaster here is just incredible. Somebody was able to port an entire Laserdisc game with full motion video to the Super Nintendo with the MSU1, and playing it on MiSTer is an absolutely incredible and spectacular experience. It feels wrong to see something like this running on Super Nintendo, obviously in this instance FPGA, but the fact that this enhances the Super Nintendo so much makes it feel nothing short of magic. And if this was actually capable of running on the Super Nintendo CD, had that actually existed, this would have been absolutely mind-blowing, because this beats anything that the Sega CD or PC Engine could do back in the day, obviously this being a more forward-thinking, quote-unquote, enhancement chip. If you ever played Super Road Blaster, if you've never played any FMV game like Dragon's Lair, this is one of the best in my opinion. I absolutely love this game, and it is amazing on the MSU1 expansion on MiSTer. This in HDMI on my 4K TV, 1080p upscaled to 4K from the television. It looks really clean. Obviously there are some artifacts and macro blocking in the video, but the fact that this works whatsoever is incredible. But it looks great, it plays great, and it sounds great. And I will tell you, this is the type of game where if there's any lag in your experience, you're going to know it, because you're not going to be able to hit those button inputs. This, for lack of a better term, is basically just a rhythm game like Guitar Hero, except it's full motion video and you're driving a car. But it's the same concept. Any lag and nothing's going to work, and I will tell you, I was playing this game absolutely perfectly, and any mistake I made was down to my own. So MSU1 with FMV games on the MiSTer are perfect. This game just looks and sounds amazing, and I still can't believe it functions on one small FPGA device, let alone is theoretically possible. I love the cutscenes, I love everything about this experience, and if you've never checked out the MSU1 yet, you definitely want to play at least Super Road Blaster if nothing else, because this shows just how far the MSU1 chip can push the actual Super Nintendo experience. I love the animations on this game, the soundtrack is incredible. It's definitely an acquired taste type of game, and if you've never played these type of things before, try it here. But try Dragon's Lair, try Time Gal, they're all really fun games that are a throwback experience. I remember as a kid, when I went to the arcade with my father, there was a Dragon's Lair cabinet there, and he could still beat it on 1 credit from memory because he played it that much back in the day. People really do love these games, and I am definitely one of them, and the fact that we can experience this on MiSTer, on the Super Nintendo core, with no lag whatsoever, great visuals and great audio, is absolutely magic. I just still can't believe that this is possible in and of itself, let alone on our MiSTers. But the soundtrack is great as well, and it has amazing PCM audio, so go ahead and listen for like 20 seconds, and I'll come back. We'll go to the second game in this MSU1 roundup that you guys wanted me to talk about. But the music's great. Enjoy it. And like I said, the lag is non-existent, so that mistake right there where I drove into that semi was 100% my fault. But moving on, let's talk about Killer Instinct, because the MSU1 is not just a sound enhancement chip. It doesn't just allow you to play PCM audio samples. People have actually used this theoretical enhancement to incorporate bits of the arcade version of Killer Instinct into the Super Nintendo, like those animated intros right there. There's a little bit of jank on the left hand side of the screen, but I tried it on a software emulator as well that can also emulate the MSU1, and it does the exact same thing, so it might just be down to how it was programmed. But basically what the makers of this have done is they've incorporated code from the arcade version of Killer Instinct and brought it over to the Super Nintendo, because Nintendo loved doing things like having their names on arcade games and saying it was running on their hardware when in fact it wasn't. Cruisin' USA is a prime example. It said it was running on the Ultra 64 on the arcade cabinet, and that was 100% not true, and everyone was really disappointed. Even though Cruisin' USA was a good game on the N64, it didn't look like the arcade completely. So the fact that people are using the MSU1 enhancement to bring features and code over from the arcade version to the Super Nintendo version gives you a way more fuller experience for this game. Now, I'm not going to lie and say you can't just emulate the arcade version, because you can, but if you want to sit on your couch, play MiSTer, and get as really close to perfect arcade experience as you can get, playing the MSU1 version on your MiSTer is an absolutely amazing experience. And again, it's not just the code or the animations, they also bring over some amazing soundtrack elements. So again, because it sounds so awesome, listen, and I'll be back in like 30 seconds or so. Sounds absolutely incredible, and that's why MSU1 support on MiSTer is so amazing, because it's not just music, it's enhancements from arcade versions, it's full motion video, it's so many different changes. Basically, the options are endless, and now that it's on MiSTer, I hope that we see even more enhancements come over to some of these titles, because while I don't love Killer Instinct, I had more fun with it than I expected. But moving over to the third game in this little tour, talking about what the MSU1 can do outside of just that PCM audio, is Street Fighter Alpha 2 on the Super Nintendo. This in and of itself was always impressive that they got it running on the Super Nintendo, and not that it has anything to do with this video, but if you ever played Alpha on the Game Boy Advance, that's another seemingly impossible port. The versions that we got of the Alpha series at home were always better than you would expect, but there was definitely some issues with the port of Street Fighter Alpha 2, and again, not only does the MSU1 version improve audio in some aspects and you can have different variants of the soundtrack, it also adds in frames and just basically overall improves the game. But you'll see right off the top, it does load a tiny bit, but this is a lot better than the bone stock cartridge, which I actually do have in my collection and never played because I own a CPS2, so honestly, why would I? But again, this on MiSTer with the MSU1 enhancement is spectacular, and this is relatively close to the arcade original, because if we move over to that, you'll see that the detail gets better and everything looks nicer and runs ever so slightly faster, but this is a really close approximation of what Alpha 2 was, and if you own this game back in the day, you'd be quite happy with it. Now, it's really kind of funny to talk about this because it is one of the best MSU1 games I can talk about, but of course we have CPS2 support on MiSTer from Hotego as well. So should you play this one, it's fun to check out, but maybe just go over the CPS2 version. But putting these side by side, Super Nintendo with the MSU1 enhancement on the left and the CPS2 original on the right, they are way closer than you would expect them to be. This is just a spectacular version of the game, and of course, like I said, CPS2 is on MiSTer, so maybe just start there. But if you're really in love with the Super Nintendo version, you grew up playing it and you got some nostalgia for it, the MSU1 version is the better way to play, and with that crystal clear HDMI out of MiSTer or the perfect analog signal to a CRT, you're getting an amazing experience on the MSU1. And that's why I wanted to do a little tour of what was available, because on the first video I just talked about the concept of it, some of the FMV, and mostly the soundtrack changes, but there is so much more to see here, and you'll see again going over to the CPS2 version, it is very close to the arcade original. The people that made this port did a spectacular job, and the coders that added in the MSU1 enhancements did an even better job, because once we pop back over to Super Nintendo, you'll see here, it's really, really good looking. You cannot deny how nice that actually is. But yeah, that was the tour of the MSU1, some of the best games that show off the features. I don't think I'm going to touch on MSU1 again, but if you have any questions or comments, I'll leave them down below. And like I said earlier, do me a huge favor, hit like and subscribe, really helps us out. I will be back next Thursday with another episode on the MiSTer, and I'll have videos through the week as well. But yeah, if you haven't tried MSU1 support yet on MiSTer, you're 100% missing out. See you guys next time. Bye-bye.